Hey, welcome to Draft Academy. My name is Mike. In this course, I'm going to cover everything you need to know to get started writing HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it's basically just a language that we can use to create web pages. So if you've ever been on the internet, almost every single page on the internet was written in this language called HTML. And in HTML, you can define a series of HTML tags, which will define the layout and the look and the feel of your website. So if you can learn what those HTML tags are, and if you can learn where to put them and how to use them together, then you can build your own website. It's actually a lot easier than people think to build a custom website. I mean, so often people will run off to use like content management systems, or they use programs to build websites for them. But sometimes it's fun to just go in and get your hands dirty and start building a website from scratch. And you're gonna learn how to do that in this course. In this course, I'm gonna cover the basics of using HTML. So from the first lesson onto the last lesson, you're gonna be writing HTML, you're gonna be learning new tags, and you're gonna be learning new ways to manipulate a web page to make it look and feel the way that you want it to. HTML is an invaluable skill. I mean, even just putting HTML experience on your resume could help you get a job one day, or it could just be something cool that you could brag to your friends about. As awesome as it is, I think sometimes people can be a little bit intimidated to try and learn HTML because it seems like there's so much to learn and it seems so complicated. I'm here to tell you that it's actually really easy to learn. And I'm gonna be here with you throughout the entire course, walking you through all of the basics. Trust me, I've known HTML for a while, so I know what's worth learning and what's not. We're gonna cover everything that you need. We're gonna talk about all the important things. And by the end of this course, you're gonna have a true and full understanding of what HTML is, how to use it, and how to build your own website. In this tutorial, I want to talk to you about choosing a text editor for HTML. Now, whenever you're writing HTML, you're actually writing it inside of what's called an HTML file. So this is a file just a lot like a text file, but instead of a .txt or a .docx extension, we have a .html extension. So with HTML, you're basically just writing these HTML files, and then your web browser is able to take those files and display them as web pages. And it's sort of this really cool thing. But the first step in writing HTML is picking some program that you can use to write these HTML files in. There's a bunch of different options when you're trying to choose an HTML text editor, and I think a lot of times it can get a little bit confusing or maybe even a little bit overwhelming just because there's so many options and so many people have different opinions on which is the best editor and what's the best thing for beginners to do. In this video, I just want to give you an overview of like what are your options, and then maybe give you some recommendations as far as like where to start. So with HTML text editors, really all you need is just a simple text editor. So any text editor that you have which is capable of editing files and saving them in different formats is gonna work for you. And generally when you're writing HTML, you don't want to use like a word processing program. There's a lot of word processors out there, Microsoft Word, Google Docs, LibreOffice. These are like these big word processing programs, and this is generally not something that you want to use. So you don't want to be typing out your HTML inside of a Microsoft Word. That's kind of an overkill. When you're writing HTML, the simpler, the better. So a lot of times for beginners, people will recommend that you use the just very simple text editor that you have on your computer. On Windows, it's gonna be Notepad. On Mac, it's like TextEdit. And these are just the bare bones simple text editors, and it's actually more than enough that you need to write HTML. And so, like I said, generally for beginners, writing HTML in something simple like Notepad or TextEdit really forces you to focus on writing the HTML, and you have to type out every single line, and you have to really look to make sure that everything's formatted correctly. And ultimately, it'll just help you to really grasp the fundamentals. But if you're somebody who doesn't want to use like Notepad or TextEdit, you can actually use a specially designed program. And there's a bunch of these programs out there which are specially designed to write HTML in. And some of the popular programs, there's one called Atom, Sublime, Brackets, Text Wrangler, WebStorm. There's a bunch of these different programs that have been developed by different companies, and you can go online and do a bunch of research, but essentially what these are programs that are specially designed to help you write your HTML. So they'll take the HTML and they might display it differently. They might give you the ability to use like add-ons or different features that will make writing HTML a little bit easier. But as a penalty for that, they're also a little bit more complicated to use. And so, like I said, generally for beginners, like the less complicated things are, the better. So you may want to err more on the side of doing something simple, and then once you learn HTML, move up to one of these other programs. I want to show you sort of the difference in what these might look like. So over here I have TextEdit, and this is just the default like text editor on Macs. So if I open this, you'll see here I have this file, and this is actually an HTML file. So inside of this file, I have written a bunch of HTML, and this is like the simplest HTML document you're ever gonna see. But this is what writing HTML would look like in something like this. And so if I wanted to add some more HTML down here, I could just type it out, and it's very simple. There's nothing to configure, there's nothing to add on, you just sort of write out your HTML. But something more complicated would be a program like this. This is called Atom, and this is one of those text editors I was talking about. And this makes it a little bit easier for you to write the HTML. You can see it's formatted a little bit differently, right? So this is the same code, by the way. So over here, these little tags are colored. This is colored up here. So there's different colors. Generally, programs like this will allow you to choose different themes. So I could, make the whole look and the feel of this different. So there's a lot of really cool options and configuration options that you can use with a text editor like this. But what you also need to understand is writing HTML in this is doing exactly the same thing as this doing. Functionally, these are the same thing. They're just, it's an environment for us to write HTML in. So here's my recommendation to you. I would definitely recommend, and a lot of people recommend this, starting with a simple text editor like this. It doesn't have to be TextEdit, but it can be something simple. And the whole idea is that the simpler the better. When you're first learning HTML, you don't want to have to worry about configuring different things or working with some heavy text editor. Using something light and simple like TextEdit is just going to allow you to focus on the HTML. And then once you have a grasp for writing HTML and you really feel comfortable doing it, then you can move up to a program like this. Now, obviously, that's just my recommendation. You don't have to listen to me. And if you do want to choose a program like this, definitely do your research, try out a couple different programs, see which one fits for you. You're going to hear a lot of people online saying like this text editor is the best or that one's the best. People always get into little fights about those things, but the best text editor is the one that is right for you. And so it's the one that you enjoy using the most. Don't listen so much to what other people are saying. The best way to pick is just to try a bunch of these different text editors, and as you go through this course even, you can try a bunch of different ones and see how you like using each one. But again, for beginners, I would recommend starting simple. HTML is a really simple language, and so the less you can bog it down with like all these plugins and add-ons and themes, like the better it is. Because with web development and just programming in general, it's usually the simpler and the more straightforward something is, the better it is. In this tutorial, I want to talk to you about creating your first HTML file. So I'm going to show you how to create an HTML file. I'll show you how you can view that HTML file on your web browser, and I'll show you how to set up your HTML file with some default HTML code in order to make it work properly. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a folder for my project. So I'm going to create a folder that I can put my HTML files in for my website. Over here in my File Explorer, I'm just going to make a new folder, and I'm just going to call this GA_site for Draft Academy site. And then now what we can do is open up this folder inside of my text editor. So I'm going to come over here and I'll just add this project folder. And now inside of this folder, I'm going to create a new file. So I'm going to say new file, and I'm just going to call this index.html. Now, the reason I'm naming this file index.html is because generally when you're creating your first web page, you want to name it index.html. Index.html is a special file name that we can use, and if a file is named index.html and it's at the root directory of your folder, then your web browser will think that that's the home page of your website. So if you're just creating one web page like this, it's a good idea for us to name it index.html. But really, you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name mine index.html. And so now we have our HTML file open. So this is actually a file now that we can use and view on our web browser. So if I just came over here and typed hello world, I can actually take this file and I'm just gonna open it up inside of my web browser. So I'm gonna click open, open with, and then I'll open it with my web browser. So I'm gonna open it with Google Chrome. And now what'll happen is you'll see this file will open up, and over here on the web browser we have our text. And so this is like the simplest, purest form of HTML, which is just typing out some bare bones text inside of an HTML file, and it'll display here on our screen. But if we want to have an HTML file that's like an official file and that's structured correctly, we're actually going to have to add in some extra code in here. So I'm going to get rid of this, and we're going to create what's called an HTML tag. Now, HTML is a language that's used to define layouts for web pages, and we can define those layouts using things called tags. So I can create a series of tags, and those tags will basically tell my web browser how I want my website to look and what content I want to have on my website. So in order to kind of start creating our HTML file, we're going to have to create a basic skeleton of HTML tags. And these are just standard tags that every HTML file is going to have, and they're basically going to give our browser different information about what's in our file. So up here, the first tag that I want to create is going to be called doc type, and we're basically going to define what the document type of this file is going to be. And we're going to create an HTML file, so I'm going to type an exclamation point, DOCTYPE, all caps, just like that, and then I want to say HTML. So this tag is basically telling my web browser the type of this document is HTML. So this is an HTML document. And now down here, I can start creating what are called container tags. So this is a single tag. We only need one of these tags. But in HTML, there's a lot of tags which are called container tags. And it basically means that there's two tags. So there's a starting tag and there's an ending tag. And you can put other tags inside of them. So they act as containers for either content or other HTML tags. And the first one we're going to create is just called the HTML tag. So I'm going to make a less than sign, HTML, and a greater than sign. And now I can close off this tag. So this is the starting tag, and I want to create an ending tag. So I'm going to create that down here. And the way that you create an ending tag is you take the name of the starting tag, and you basically just put a / before it, and then you type out the name of the starting tag. So this is now a pair of tags, and you can see the relationship, right? So up here we have the starting tag. So HTML is the name of this tag. You could say that this is an HTML tag. And this is the ending tag. So it uses that same name, but it uses this /. So that / is used to denote that this is the ending tag. And this HTML tag is going to be necessary for any HTML files that you have. This is basically like the highest level tag in our website. It's like the overall container tag for our website. And so all of the HTML code and HTML tags are going to go inside of here. So now there's two other sets of tags that I need to create. The first set is called the head tags, and the second is called the body tags. So in any HTML file, there's two basic sections. There's the head of the document, and then there's the body of the document. And the head of the document defines data about the document. So we can define things like the title of the document. We can give the document a description. We could define other attributes about the document, like maybe an image that's associated to the document. We can also use the head to import any resources that we need into our HTML file. So you'll find out later that we can actually link this HTML file to other types of files. And inside of the head, we can do all of that. So the head is sort of like the settings of the HTML file. It's like the command center. It's sort of like metadata about the actual file. And we can create the head by creating head tags. So it's going to be a less than sign. We're going to type head. And now we can close off this tag just like that. And now I'm going to create a body tag. So the body tag is where we're going to put like the meat and the bones of the HTML page. So The body tag is where all of our HTML content's going to go. Generally, the body is going to be a lot bigger than the head. The body is going to be where you're actually putting all of the content for your web page. So anything that's in the body, for the most part, is going to show up, or at least it's going to get rendered by the browser. Now down here, I'm just going to make these body tags. So I'm going to say body, and we'll make another closing tag, body. And so I'm defining all of these different tags, and when I open this file up inside of my web browser, the web browser is able to look through all of these tags and figure out information about the page. So the web browser can actually like parse through all of these different tags, and it can figure out how to display all of the information. So you can define information, and you can use tags to help define that information and lay out that information differently. And the web browser will be able to parse through all of that and basically decipher it and use it to build a website. So it's really cool. Now, one thing I want to point out is the way that I'm formatting everything. So you'll notice here that I have these HTML tags, and inside of these HTML tags, I have this head tag and I have this body tag. So I want to point out the relationship between all of these tags, and I'm also going to introduce you guys to some terminology. The first thing you want to notice is that I'm indenting the head tag and I'm indenting the body tag. So you can see there's like a couple spaces here. This is basically just a tab. And generally when you're writing HTML, you want to indent all of your files. And so the rules for indenting are basically like, we have this container, right? So I have this HTML tag and this HTML tag. And inside of here, we have the head and the body. So any tags that are inside other tags, you want to indent. And so it's just like this, right? This head tag is inside of this HTML tag, so I'm indenting it. Same thing with the body, I'm indenting it. And that will basically visually help you to decipher the relationships between the tags. And we can actually define the relationships with these tags. And one of the most common ways to do that is with like family terminology. So we would refer to this HTML tag up here as the parent of this head tag and this body tag. So the body tag is the child of the HTML tag because it's inside of it. So if you're ever talking to like HTML developers, a lot of times they'll use that terminology. They'll say like, oh, the head tag is the child of the HTML tag. So I could ask you like, what's the parent of this body tag? And the answer would be the HTML tag, because the body tag is inside of the HTML tag. We would also define the head tag and the body tag as siblings. So these would be sibling tags because they share the same parent. And so you can kind of understand that relationship. So if I was to create a series of tags inside of here, another tag we can make is like a paragraph. Actually, you wouldn't want to put it in the head. We'd want to put it in the body. So I could create a paragraph tag, and don't worry too much about what paragraph tags are. We're going to get into that. But this paragraph tag would be the grandchild of this HTML tag, and it would be the child of this body tag. So that's kind of like some terminology that you're going to hear a lot. You know, generally we're defining these HTML tags in terms of like generational syntax. So parent, child, grandparent, you get the point. So now that we have this basic HTML skeleton laid out, we essentially have everything that we need for this website. And so I can refresh, or I can save this page, and I'm actually gonna head over here into my browser. And now when we refresh this page, you'll see that nothing happens. So this is a completely blank HTML document. It's like the simplest HTML document that we could ever write. So I'm gonna show you one more tag that you can use, and this is called the title tag. So up here in the head of the document, I'm gonna create another tag called title. And this tag, we're gonna put some information in here. So generally when you have HTML tags, certain tags are meant as containers. So for example, this HTML set of tags is a container. It's basically used to hold other tags, but certain tags are used to hold content. So this title tag is used to hold text. And so inside of these title tags, we wanna put text. And this is gonna be the title of my website. So I could say like Mike's website, and this is gonna now be the official title of our website. And you'll notice that if I come over here to my web browser, look up here at this tab, you can see the title up here is currently index.html. That's the name of the file. But when I refresh this file, you'll see that it updates to Mike's website. And so this is a good example of the browser is able to parse through our website and it's able to read these title tags and figure out what the title of our website is. So these are the kind of tags that you can put inside of your head, or like title tags, tags that are defining information about the HTML document. And so down here in the body tag, I could put any content that I want to have inside of my web page. So I could put like hello world down here, and now when I refresh the page, it'll show up in my web browser. So that's how you want to go writing out content on your website. Any of the content is going to go inside of these body tags. And throughout the rest of this course, we're going to get into all the cool tags that you can put inside this body tag. Seriously, there's so many of these awesome tags in HTML, and there's so many tags that can help us to do awesome things inside of our web browser. So I hope you stick around and we'll learn how to put stuff inside the body. In this tutorial, I want to talk to you about using some basic HTML tags. So we're going to look at some of the most common HTML tags that you're going to be using in your website, and we'll use them to define a pretty good looking site. So by the end of this video, you'll have a good idea of how to lay out a bunch of content inside of HTML and display it on your browser. The first tag that I want to show you is a tag that actually is going to go up here in the head of our document. And I'm going to put it right here above the title. And right now I just have a basic skeleton of an HTML file. It's sort of like the simplest version of an HTML file. And one thing that I want to do is define something called a meta tag. And a meta tag is basically a tag that defines information about our file. So it's giving us metadata. So I can use this less than sign, and I'm going to define this meta tag. And I'm basically just going to use this to define the character encoding for my web page. So this is basically just telling the web browser what types of characters I'm using inside of this document. So I can say char set is equal to, and then inside of these quotation marks, I'm just going to say UTF-8. And this will define the character set for my document as UTF-8, which is like a really common character set. It's the character set that I'm using. So like I said, this is a meta tag, and it's used to define information about our file. I'm going to define one more meta tag, and this is going to be a meta description tag. And so we can use this tag to basically give a description for our website. And this tag can be used by things like web browsers. So for example, Google could go into our file, look at this meta tag, and it can use it to display information on its search pages. So generally when you search for something on Google, a lot of times there'll be like a little description of it, and they're using this tag from the file. So I can say meta, and I'm going to say name is equal to description. And now I'm going to say content is equal to, and now I can type the description for my website. So I could say like, this is an awesome website. And now we have this description, which is just like, this is an awesome website. And I'm going to go ahead and end this tag. So I want to show you guys one concept, or one thing in HTML, which is HTML attributes. Now we have these HTML tags. So this is a meta tag right here. This is a meta tag. But inside of these tags, we have things called attributes. Sometimes people call them attributes, sometimes people call them properties. Basically, we're passing this tag some information. So I have my meta tag, and I'm giving this tag some custom information. So inside of this meta tag, I'm telling it what type of information I want to define. So I'm telling it that I want to define a description, and I'm telling it what that description should be. So a lot of times in these HTML tags, you can pass them attributes or properties, and those tags will be able to use those attributes and properties to do their job. So this meta tag's job is to define metadata about the file. And when we pass it these attributes or properties, we're giving it the information that it needs to define that metadata. So a lot of times inside of our HTML tags, we're going to have different attributes, and we're going to have to give those tags different information. So just keep that in mind, and these meta tags kind of do a good job of showing that, because they take, like this one takes 2 attributes. So those are 2 tags that we can define up here in the head of our document. Now let's move down into the body of our document, and we'll start having some fun. So the body of the document is where we can put all of like the actual content for our website. So all the stuff that you see on the website is generally going to go here inside the body. Now, the first tag I want to show you guys is basically a tag that we can use to define a header or like a title on our website. So over here I have this hello world, but I'm just going to get rid of that because I don't really like it. Imagine that I wanted to give my website a heading, right? So I wanted to define like the heading for my website. Well, over here I can use something called a heading tag. And the way that we write this heading tag is with $sign, and I'm gonna use this H, and then after H, I'm gonna give this a number. So I can give this a number either 1 through 6. So I can give it a 2, 3, 4, 5, or a 6. And this will basically spit out a header for our website. So header 1, let's just say that this is gonna be Mike's website, and I'm gonna use this ending tag right here. So this is an example of a tag that's gonna take some text input inside of it. And now when I go over here and I refresh my page, you'll notice that Mike's website shows up and it's nice and big, right? So I have this nice big header on my website, and it's, you know, the text is really big and it looks really good. And in addition to defining an H1, I could also make this an H2. And so now when I make this an H2, it's gonna be a little bit smaller. So you see that it shrunk a little bit. And I can make this an H4 and it's gonna shrink even more. And I could go all the way down to an H6, which is the smallest size of header that HTML is gonna allow us to define. And that's gonna be a pretty small header. So anytime you wanna sort of like announce something, or you wanna like title maybe like a section of a document, you can use these headers, and the headers will look a little bit bigger and bolder than just normal text would. So in addition to having a header, maybe we'll leave this as an H2. I can also define just regular textual information. So I could define like a paragraph on my website. And if you're writing like an article or a web page, a lot of times you're gonna wanna use a paragraph, right? You're gonna wanna have some text on your website. So I can make what's called a paragraph tag. And a paragraph tag is just gonna be P, and then we're also gonna need an ending tag. And now any text that I write in here is gonna go inside of its own paragraph. So I could write like, this is my paragraph. And now when I refresh my page, you'll see that this text showed up in its own paragraph. And what's cool about paragraphs is that they'll automatically sort of format themselves. So I could actually make another paragraph right below this. So we could say this is another paragraph. And this paragraph will automatically space itself out, and it'll be below this other paragraph, okay? So we have this paragraph, and then we have this paragraph, and they're kind of just like lined up like that. And you can put as much text as you want inside these paragraphs. And generally, whenever you're writing out like a block of text, you're gonna wanna use this paragraph tag. Now, we can also style some of the elements inside of this paragraph. So let's say that I wanted this word here, paragraph, to be bolded. Well, I can use another special HTML tag, which is the bold tag, and this will make this word bold. So I can do $sign, and the bold tag is just a B, and then you want to end it over here. So inside of these open and closed bold tags, we can put any of the text inside of a paragraph or inside of another place in our website that we want to be bold. So now when I refresh this page, you'll see that paragraph is bold. I can also use another tag. So instead of making it bold, we can make it italicized. So I could use an I right here instead of a B. And now instead of being bold, this text is gonna be italicized. And you can actually embed these tags inside one another. So I could use the bold tags and the italics tags. So over here, I'll take this bold tag and I'll take this other ending bold tag. And inside of the bold tags, I'm gonna put the italics tags, and then I'm gonna put the paragraph. And now we'll have a bold italics paragraph, just like that. So it's just italicizing one of the words and bolding the word at the same time. So that's a really great way for you to, you could italicize certain words or you can bold certain words, and it really makes it easy just by using those tags. Another thing that we can do is we can control the layout of the document. So one of the things with HTML is that it lays out our web pages in a very specific way. And I want to kind of show you how that happens. So when HTML lays out our web page, it basically takes the layout that we define here inside the body and displays it over here on the web page. So the order that we have the elements here in the document is the order that they're going to show up on the browser. So if I was to cut out this paragraph and paste it up here above the header, now my document's layout and structure will reflect that. So now the paragraph is going to be above the website header, and then this other paragraph is going to be below it. So the way that you order these tags inside of HTML is the way that they're going to show up on the website. And the other thing is HTML doesn't necessarily care about the way that we format this file. So in other words, HTML doesn't care about the white space. In other words, if I made 2 extra lines here, you might think, okay, now there's going to be 2 extra lines between the paragraph and the title, right? Because there's all this space inside of here. But that's actually not the case. When I refresh the page, nothing happens. HTML lays itself out and orders itself out using these tags. And so it doesn't care about any of this white space that's inside of our files. It really just cares about what's inside these tags. So imagine that we wanted to create some white space, right? And I'm just going to put this header back up here so it's a little bit easier to read. I could actually create a new line. So let's say here inside of this, after this header 2,